Today we are speaking with Prof Maximus Monaheng Sefotho. He is the director of the Center for Neurodiversity at the University of Johannesburg. He leads global conversations with academics and experts, shaping how neurodivergent learners are understood, supported, and celebrated, both in Africa and beyond. Before we dive into his work, I would love for him to share how he came into this field, what drew him to neurodiversity, and what keeps him passionate about transforming education for every learner. Prof, welcome to Beyond the Box.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, madam. Thank you for welcoming us. Yes, indeed. How I got into neurodiversity. I grew up with a young man who had dysarthria. And dysarthria is a condition under neurodiversity that obstructs how a person speaks. And you can't hear the words properly because they are not articulating the words the way we are used to hearing them. So that is one of the conditions that. But then I came into neurodiversity earlier. I was working with visual impairment, but then I transferred to here to come and join the team that's working on neurodiversity. I came across this term actually in the USA, in Portland, and it became important for me because it emphasizes the positive, the abilities, the inclusion, everything that has to do with accepting human beings as we are supposed to.
Beautiful start. Beautiful start. Thank you for sharing. Doctor, please introduce yourself.
My name is Dr. McLaughlin, Shonda. I'm from the United States. I'm here on a Fulbright fellowship from the Fulbright program in the United States through the Department of State. And I came to the University of Soweto, Johannesburg, Soweto.
Yeah.
One reason mainly because of the Neurodiversity Center and the work that they are doing with their students and also the community.
Awesome. That's awesome. It's such an honor to have both of you here to share your journey and your experience with neurodiversity. Yeah, Prof, we're going to start with you.
Yes,
when
ma'am.
you imagine the future of neurodiversity at African universities,
Yes.
what does that look like?
It looks like a world where every neurodivergent learner, student, you name it, will feel truly included, understood, and accepted, and supported to be able to realize their dreams, become who they are. A world that will include them such that they transition from the education space into the world of work.
That sounds like a really aspirational future. And I know there are laws and policy around that, which we will touch on, I think, later on in South Africa particularly. But what needs to change first for that to be realized?
We need to have society change its outlook towards neurodivergent people. Just by way of explaining, a young man seems to be stubborn. At school, he doesn't want to do anything, or he wants to do things his own way. The teachers take that learner as being disrespectful, whereas they don't understand the person. And the moment now that unlocking of knowledge, of understanding this person becomes a reality, that's when our learners in our universities, in our schools, will begin to feel at home and also understood, because that is the most important part. As well as a person is not understood, we don't know what we are dealing with. Mind you, the tricky part of neurodiversity is that you can't see the person.
Absolutely. It's a disability that you cannot actually see, right?
Actually, it is not a disability per se. We refer to it as a condition. That we are trying to move away from a deficit model under neurodiversity to where we are saying this person has, let's use, for example, autism. This person has autism, and this person just processes information in a different way. But it doesn't mean they are disabled. It doesn't mean they have a disability.
It's a neurotype.
It's a neurodiversity condition that they do have. Yes.
Interesting. I love how you put that, because it starts with understanding. And you cannot understand what you do not know, right? There needs to be education. From education, you understand. Once you understand, then there's empathy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
In the classroom environment.
Yes.
Interesting. Okay. So we are going to move on. Let me just see where I am. Beyond policy and documents, how do you see the center rewriting what inclusion actually looks like on the ground? Yeah, Prof, I like how you started and how you shared about what actually needs to change for this future that we are aspiring to actually happen.
Yes.
So let's look now into beyond the policy and the documents that we know South Africa has White Paper 6 for that matter. And I've had the privilege of sitting with the Director of Inclusion at the DHET, who unpacked what it actually looks like. But sometimes, things are different from policy to reality on the ground. So what does that look like?
Okay. Madam, policy is there to guide, but the reality on the ground is different. Let me link back to what I said, that society needs to change. We need to make society aware of what neurodiversity is. Mind you, the conditions of neurodiversity are so many under what we call the neurodiversity umbrella. I only refer to maybe autism, but there are several. But let's think of a person who's sitting way out in Malamulele, who you go and say, well, your child has autism. And you can't even explain it in our own language.
Because we don't have the word autism in Sepedi, Tswana, or Zulu.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That is the reality that people are facing out there. But we need to hold hands with communities. We need to infiltrate, leave the classroom, leave the offices, leave the centers, and go and talk to people. Let's have conversations with them. We might learn a lot from them, that perhaps there are ways that they can explain the animal neurodiversity that we know to be now. I suspect it existed over time,
without
but
a doubt.
It didn't have the same name. But what did they call it? How do they treat their own people in their own communities? We would like to look at this through the lens of Ubuntu, where we accept any person, whether we consider them different, disabled, or whatever, but as long as they are a human being, this is a person who we should actually promote. By the way, they have their own abilities, they have their own gifts, which we do not understand, because from the universities where we were taught, this was not emphasized. We were not taught how to identify, how to be able to, support these particular people. But now that we are there, it is now an opportunity for us to be in a conversation, to raise awareness, to train teachers, to train parents, to train, caregivers, anyone who is working in the space of neurodiversity.
Yeah, I just love how you talk about the fact that they've got their own abilities, right? And that's at the core of what we do at Kids Innovate Africa. We have a program called Celebrating Neurodiversity.
Beautiful.
And this is a quarterly event. It brings together experts from across different walks of life.
Beautiful.
Educational psychologists,
Beautiful.
behavioral psychologists, and clinical psychologists even. They come together with parents for the one objective of sharing knowledge and empowering, with the core focus on the strengths.
Yes.
So the fact that you bring it up, that they've got their own abilities that we don't necessarily have as neurotypicals. Therefore, we need to celebrate that.
Yes.
Yeah. So what is the Center for Neurodiversity? What are you guys doing to make sure that you change what the future should look like on the ground?
We collaborate. First of all, as the center, we are situated in the Department of Educational Psychology. And then we train our educational psychology students to understand issues of neurodiversity. Even at undergraduate, we have modules that have to do with neurodiversity, so that we start our students back then for them to come appreciating neurodiversity. Then we have an honors degree. They become now much more focused on any of the conditions, and they can also become involved in research. We have master's degrees. That's where serious business begins now. Fortunately, our own principal and vice chancellor, Professor 𝐂𝐿𝐴 𝐷𝐿𝐴, is like our patron for the center. He has actually started a scholarship called the 𝐵EDI Family Scholarship for Neurodiversity, where he takes money from his family to fund about 5 students each year who then would research in any condition that has to do with neurodiversity. We are making a call out there that this is a noble call to support. It should not be one individual who is doing it. And that is part of why we are saying, even beyond policy, that is what we are looking at. I would like to link back to give over to Doctor by saying that when you talk of policy, when you are talking of inclusion, inclusive education policy, we would like to see a situation where policy would allow communities such as neurodivergent communities to be able to look beyond the policy to answer to their actual need. What do I mean by this? How do you force a neurodivergent person whose mind cannot be boxed within policy?
Yeah?
But it cannot be boxed within policy. We have, for example, in our education, what we call the exit policy. But we are thinking as the center of what we call a transition policy, where we don't make a person feel like we are getting rid of you. You have exited the system. But we want to embrace a transition as such in terms of creating even employment beyond the education system itself. But I would like to give over to my colleague to have a say.
Yeah, it's so nice, Prof, how you have leadership support from right at the top, the VC championing neurodiversity and making sure that it goes beyond the rhetoric. He's actually on the ground, putting his resources to make sure that the cause is supported. Doctor, you want to share?
Yes, I think that with the professor, what I agree with him and I like is that this neurodiversity center, they operationalize like dignity. And so even though, like he was saying, that we're looking at policy while they're in school, but we also have to think about students when they transition out. And so with policies, they give us the guidance, but now we have to implement and do things, and which is what I think we're doing. And one main thing I think is important, and what families think about is what happens after my child leaves school.
Yes.
And there are ways to help support them in terms of preparing them, like for employment. I've worked with students who were on the spectrum, all types of disabilities, and we did things like job carving to help them be integrated and included in society. So there are things that we can do to help prepare them for employment, which also helps them in terms of socializing, working with some of their executive functioning, behavioral conditions and situations. So there are things that we can do, but we have to be engaged and be consistent with it to help them feel a little more confident when they transition out.
Absolutely. Sure. Can you hear the lightnings? We are in Johannesburg, something that is not very familiar in Cape Town. We can literally, it's raining. It's beautiful.
Welcome to Gauteng.
Welcome to Gauteng, right? The land of lightnings. Okay. So thank you very much, Doctor, for sharing that. I know we're going to unpack a little bit about, the employability, opportunities, and what parents can do to get their young people, once they graduate out of university, looking into the next step. So we'll get to hear a little bit more of your insight as far as that's concerned. Prof, we're coming back to you.
Yes,
let's look at the African context,
yes.
Right? There's a lot of neurodevelopmental research that's
yes.
being conducted globally, and certainly more so in America, right, where you're from. But much of it is a little bit is exclusive.
Yes.
We don't see the African context.
Yes.
Why is that? What are we missing?
Unfortunately, most of our leaders in the creation of knowledge have not been educated in our context at the highest level, maybe master's or PhD. If you would remember, there was this exodus of people going to England, going to America, going to Australia.
Brain.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But now, the problem with that is that we become mentally colonized. to the extent that we are blind to our own realities from our own lenses, cultural lenses.
That's so profound.
What we are doing as a center, as the university has a policy of Africa by bus.
Africa by?
By bus.
Aha.
The Pan-African kind of movement,
okay.
where we want to generate knowledge from the Afrocentric epistemologies. What am I talking about here? Epistemology is about the creation of knowledge.
That's right.
As I said, I did not do my master's here. I did it outside the country. But the fortunate part of it was that where I did my master's, culture was very important. The indigenous knowledge systems were looked at in depth. This is what we are lacking here. What we are doing now is to want to link with the universities within Africa. How we have decided to do that, I'll start with one step. We are actually partnering with the 𝐂𝐻𝐿 Department of Education very strongly. This year, in April, May, we held an African Autism Conference. And from there was born an African Association of Neurodiversity. This is new on the African soil. And our focus with that is not to make it an academic entity and it ends there.
Thank you.
We want to include parents.
Yeah.
We want to include society. We want to include practitioners.
Teachers.
Everybody. Everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody. Then we took a step further and developed an African Journal of Neurodiversity so that the experiences that we are talking about could be used in our classrooms. We need those experiences published. We need those experiences to be shared with our colleagues overseas so that they see things from our own perspective as we have been seeing things from their own perspective. But it is time now for Africa 𝐂𝐻𝐿.
Wake up Africa. That's
yes,
what Prof means.
To the extent that we are very serious about linking this. At the University of Johannesburg, we are fortunate we have a very strong program of postdoctoral fellows. The lady sitting there, Dr. Neti, is a postdoctoral fellow linked to the center. But before she came, I had two other postdoctoral fellows from the University of Nigeria, Nsukka. So what we have done with them is to develop a branch there that takes issues of neurodiversity to a higher level. Yesterday, I had a presentation in Nsukka. In April, I had two presentations, but also I went there physically to create awareness, to have the similar voices who are experiencing similar issues to come to the fore and say, how then do we create knowledge that will be homegrown, that will, help us address the challenges on the ground? This is how we are doing it.
It's amazing the way you're doing it, Prof, because culture matters, right? Where we come from matters. It's important, as you say, that those in the academic space are looking at data from the context of where we are. If you're developing solutions and you're using a Western or outside case studies or data as a point of reference, then you're never really going to solve the problem.
I always use a very silly example. In the field of psychology, we have this thing called the psyche. Or some they call it the psyche. But here comes a Mosotho, a Motswana, or Mopedi person who says, "Ke na le moya," to a psychologist.
Yeah. What is that?
If you don't have your cultural roots, you'll fumble because you don't understand what the person, you want to interpret that from the Euro-Western kind of perspective, and yet that is solely African. But now, let me share about another group that helps us to be strong in the community, to have what we call social impact. They developed a a group called Fathers of Children with Neurodiversity. This is deliberately a group to say fathers have to stand up. Fathers have to be in their children's lives. You would know that from an African perspective, as African men with children, most of the time we leave it to the ladies.
That's your, go tell your mother.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But this is a very strong group which was born out of an idea from a mother who has a daughter who is neurodivergent. She said, where are the fathers? And from then on, we have the group very strong. They call themselves Fathers of Neurodiversity, Children with Neurodiversity Tribe, to bring up again the caveat of the culture.
That is so important. It's very important. Sorry to interrupt you, because
Yes,
we
ma'am.
recently had a mom whose child has a ADHD diagnosis, and when she's trying to reach out and get help for the child, the father say, we don't have this in Africa. These kids get this from you. Right? You can imagine how damaging that is. So programs like the ones you guys are starting, they're crucial, they're critical to make sure that the parents or the mom doesn't feel alone, that they're carrying the load alone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That is also to debunk the myth that we always come across, which would start from the cultural perspective, but sometimes into religions again, where people, you are bewitched, you are this, you are a sinner, you are that.
Yeah.
Those are old mentality kind of thinking.
That's simply because they don't understand the science.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, the science, I always argue that life informs science.
Interesting.
If we didn't have a neurodivergent individual, we would not have the need to go to our laboratories, try to find out what is going on.
What's happening.
Life informs science.
I hear you. Yeah, that's a fact.
It's a fact.
Yeah.
But now, unfortunately, from cultural perspectives, sometimes we are told this never happens in my culture.
Yeah.
In my family, we don't have children like this. We don't have the understanding of the DNA of a neurodivergent person until we have gone and dug deep to understand deeply, properly, what does that mean? Can it happen to certain cultural groups and not others? And what does that mean?
Yeah.
Or is it a human condition that we need to understand and accept that a person who is different is a person? And from the Ubuntu perspective, we accept that person and we only support them to be the best they can be. This is what the fathers are doing. In January, we will be going with 3 of them to the conference in Cape Town, the Neurodiversity Conference in Cape Town, where they will tell their story. Because in academia, we have the tendency also of only going to collect information from people,
that's right.
and we don't involve them. This time, we want them to tell their story, to teach us about the skills, the strategies that they use to cope, because this is a very challenging journey.
Indeed, it is. It is. Sure, I love the work that you're doing, you and your colleagues at the Center for Neurodiversity are doing, because, and more so in the African families, fathers tend to, as you've brought it out, to look at it from a slightly different lens. And the fact that you are connecting them to the field of academia, not only are you informing the people in academics to say, it cannot just be theory, we need to hear people on the ground. It's so profound, so powerful.
Thank you.
Yeah, so we are going to move on. I suspect we may have a second episode with Prof, because he's unpacking so much as a global expert, but also from the African context. We don't often get to hear, voices of authority like you speaking to that. We are going to move on. The next question: how can African-led science, our cultures, and our context reshape global understanding of neurodivergence? I think you kind of covered this, Prof.
Yes, I can summarize it briefly by saying that by creating knowledge from our own context. That is what we call epistemic equity, where now we are saying knowledge from the West, knowledge from Europe, let it be on par with our own knowledge systems from Africa. Yes, ma'am.
And because I would like to say, having connected with a few experts globally, that often in Africa we kind of look down on ourselves, that we don't believe we have the know-how, the expertise, to lead, to be leaders in certain aspects. But having traveled to the extent that I've traveled, I've seen that we actually have the best systems and the best experts that are comparable, and in some cases, to global level. And we need to start kind of taking ownership of where we are.
I challenge that through what we call research paradigms. Who said that we don't have our own? We do. We just have not put them out there and challenged the status quo as it stands. But again, it goes back to what I said earlier. We have been educated from the Western perspective such that we don't see anything different. We don't see any alternative, even if it's right in front of us. So from the research perspective, from what we call paradigms of research, we now include what we call the Ubuntu paradigm of research. We now include what other African brothers and sisters are doing. In the field of psychology, for example, we had a very prolific scholar, Bamin Samenang, who was from Cameroon, and he came up with a very brilliant idea that counteracted. He came up with what he calls ontogenesis. Above that, in the education system, we have someone who has come up with an idea that many people are not aware of. He's using the term Ubuntu-fication.
Oh,
what do we use in South Africa? We are seriously, connected to pedagogy. This guy is saying, we've been doing this throughout our centuries, but let's bring it into. But the funny part, the sad part, is that I'm not going to accept it because I feel like it's African. It's not good enough. So that is part of the mentality we need to change, even among ourselves.
Yeah. So powerful. Let's look, Prof, something that I think I do talk quite a bit about for those who follow me, who know me. I grew up in the rural Limpopo.
Okay.
I'm a rural gal. And part of the work that I do is informed by where I come from. And I've got an initiative called Girls in Robotics, which really empower adolescent girls to fall in love with STEM. And why that's important to me is because I cannot help but wonder how my future would have been like have I been exposed to some of the work that I'm exposing youngsters now. So caring about marginalized groups is very important to me.
True.
So with this question, it relates to what I've just explained. When you think of young people coming from rural areas or even the townships that are neurodivergent, but they've never gotten a diagnosis of any sort, and they're coming into the doors of the university, what does education or academic life look like for these young people? I'm sure you've come across them at UJ.
It's very challenging, extremely challenging. First of all, it falls under what we call career transitioning. They have left home, they have left their comfort zone, they come into a different challenging space where no one pays attention to them and they're by themselves. We started working with Dr. Neti to kind of include them. We have been helped by a dentist by the name of Dr. Waja. Each year he gives them free service to do dental health for them, and we connect so well. Now, when they come here, the problem is that they don't let their lecturers know that I'm here, I exist. How can I be helped?
But how do they know, Prof? I would assume they know that they're weird or that they're different, right? But they don't know that I'm autistic, I'm dyslexic. Do they?
Well, you suspect that something is
different.
You see that I'm not like, I'm different.
Yeah.
That's where we should start. I'm different. I feel different. I do things differently. It is at that stage where a person must have the curiosity to find out what is going on. And the University of Johannesburg had a section we called Psych Ed. That's where you get all types of assessments from careers, from everything. And we actually collaborate with them very closely. But what we need to do is that when we are in the rural areas, I've been to Kwakwane, by the way. When we are in the rural areas, we need to empower the teachers to accept the learners, to have them raise their voices and self-advocate.
Self-advocacy.
Yes, if that does not happen, as I said earlier, you will see a person, you see this person is old, he doesn't have a problem. That's why, even in terms of medical services, sometimes they are denied those. Their human rights are being trampled because someone is looking at them and judging them and saying, you are okay, there's nothing wrong with you. But if we were to say to them, speak up for yourself, so that when you get to the university, because there are systems, then the systems are aware of your existence and they're able to help you.
Sure. I thank you for touching on that, because you are speaking directly to the students essentially, but also to the parents and the teachers.
Definitely.
To say, speak up.
Definitely.
There's help for you.
Definitely.
Yeah. So you guys at Center for Neurodiversity, you seek them out, as you said, with the doctor, you seek them out, you take them through some sort of an assessment, I would assume, and then you have support in place for them such that they're able to cope with their academic life.
Most of the time, they would have already been diagnosed. Yeah. Okay. The problem that we still sit with is those who are hiding themselves. And they are hiding themselves because of fear of stigma and discrimination. And what we have started doing now is through the center to also speak to the SRC, to speak to different associations. We have hordes of them coming to the center to try and understand what is it that we are doing. And now, also linking them up internationally. We have had a young man by the name of Lifa, and he had a podcast like we are doing through between the three universities, the University of Johannesburg and the Catholic University of Columbia, and another university in Ireland. Fortunately, when I was in Colombia about a month ago, I was able to meet the young man who was interviewed with our own student here. The idea behind that is that they disseminate their stories to tell people that we are here, we are okay.
Yeah. We are here, we can add value, we have strength. You need to know about the strength. Yeah. That's very powerful. So now let's look at, Prof. I like the work that you guys are doing at UJ.
Thank you.
And I'm hoping you make your way throughout the rest of the country, because it's such a powerful work. If you're starting from high school level, it means by the time students get to university, they're empowered. They don't feel like victims.
Yes. Yeah. We are trying to do that, my sister, through our UJ FM. They are our critical anchor. We also have UJ TV. But our idea is to reach the Malamulele people, the Kwakwane people, by going there to them.
Yeah.
We are seriously looking for possibilities of acquiring what we call neurodiversity mobile clinic, so that it will allow us to go to the people instead of us waiting in the center for them to come. You know for sure that 15 rand that a mother has is for a loaf of bread. We can't expect them to be always coming to us. So you are right to say, are we making inroads into the country? Little by little, we are doing the best we can for now, but we would like really to seriously infiltrate physically.
Yeah, listening to you literally warms my heart, because you are removing the barriers, or reducing the gap between academia and the humans, the people, by going to them. Because, I mean, obviously, as I said, this is a long conversation. We will need additional time, because I've got quite a few questions I need to ask Prof and the doctor. But one of the things that we know, that we have experienced and heard of, is the fact that people are not affording assessments. In the public system, it takes forever to get assessment done. And for many people, the understanding is that you need a certification of that you have a particular neurotype for you to have access to concessions, or even support at school or university level. So the fact that you guys are going down on the ground, it's so powerful and so important, because it means people don't have to be worried. Firstly, they don't have knowledge, right? Secondly, once they've got knowledge, it's not readily accessible, or it will take time, it will take forever, and therefore longer to get support. And what we have heard from other experts is that the earlier the intervention, the better for the person. So I appreciate that you guys are so much on the ground.
Thank you.
Prof, if you could have opportunity to redesign the systems at university such that these systems are inclusive of the neurodivergent population, what would that look like?
First of all, I would start with going beyond policy and saying, let anyone who is neurodivergent, who wants to come and study at the university, be welcome. Whether they have your grade 12 or not, but as long as they have a passion to develop that ability they have, and they have a goal in life, let the curriculum be a curriculum that focuses on the ability of this person and build them up from there. The other things, mathematics, whatever, English and other stuff, should be supportive of that ability of this person. This is where I would really revamp the situation to say we are boxing people up, forcing them to learn things that they cannot access. And yet we are actually disabling them instead of supporting them to enable them to build up their own competencies, strengths, and abilities that they have. That passion that someone has grown up with, the inner thing that they have, and they want to express to the world, but the world is building walls.
You must wait until you have metric.
You see what I'm saying?
I hear you. I hear you. This is so profound. We had a young girl on our podcast. She's one of our girls in robotics, and she's fascinated with astronomy, right? But she's like, 16? And she's so fascinated with astronomy and psychology, for that matter. Imagine you take her from grade 10 and you say, start learning about this at university level, right?
Exactly.
That the impact that will make to that child's, experience and journey, but also to the community where they would eventually give back to and share their knowledge with.
Part of what is problematic is that most of the time, the overly gifted people are like that. You teach them the regular stuff in the classroom. They are light years ahead of you. That person you are describing, when they get into the classroom that you are talking about, they understand it more than your people who have done the whole steps, to be where they are, because it's in them, it's in their brain. That's how they function.
It's their interest.
They understand it better than anybody else. But it is our curriculum that is always curtailing those. So we would like to come up with a program here at the university that will accept people for who they are and develop them from there.
Yeah, this is something to think about. And I hope you let that sink in, because we have had parents of kids that are gifted. They're 6-year-olds learning content of grade 5s, right? So keeping that child in the classroom with grade 1s, they are bored out of their mind. You're trying to get them to learn history. You lose them. And if they're not well supported, these kids can drop out of school, add to the unemployment rates and maybe even crime rates, because they're disenfranchised. They're not living their purpose.
Exactly.
Yeah. Doctor, for years, people have been focusing on fixing deficit of our learners. And I'm just thinking now of a student in a lecture room they're feeling anxious, or maybe they need to regulate themselves, and they're continuously tapping their foot down, right? And this can be disruptive for everybody. And so as a lecturer, you now make a decision, this is very disruptive, we need to fix this. What would happen if we were to move away from a deficit fixing approach to focusing on the strengths?
We will unleash talent and, and
Sorry.
That's okay. And create more of interest, participation, and engagement for students with all types of disabilities, especially neurodivergent. I think that speaking from the deficit model, that is norm. Like people do that, right? But we do need to start thinking more so in the strengths model and focus on what people can do. Changing, because usually the individual is not the one who needs to be changed. We can have universal design and learning, and so that we're modifying curriculum to that person, to that individual. So I think if we stop thinking in the deficit model, we can unleash a lot of talent. We can pique people's interest in growing. We don't stagnate people just because of their disability, and the teacher themselves. If they do that, then that just reflects their limited awareness and knowledge too. So we can continue to educate ourselves about different types of disabilities and how to respond to them.
Yeah, interesting. And I'm curious to hear your thoughts here, Doctor, because when we had a guest, a DBE director for inclusion as well, inclusion education, and he talked about the scarcity of resources. In developing countries like South Africa, there's not enough resources to, if I'm hearing you correctly, somehow customize the curriculum such that it's relevant for every neurotype. How does the US do it?
Well, I think that it's not necessarily that you have to change each thing for each person, but your foundation of your curriculum is already changeable. You can amend it as needed. And if I know that someone has issues with a lot of stimuli or with me just talking, then I'm going to make sure ahead of time to make sure give that information to the individual based on their needs.
Absolutely.
So if you're trying to have resources, I think you have to collaborate, you partner with people, because no one entity can do anything by themselves. And one person can't do it by themselves either, even though I think Neurodiversity Center is doing a lot. If you partner and collaborate with people, then that helps with resources, but also helps with learning. You can still do what you need to do because you have a mutual goal in hand. But I don't think that the professors or the teachers or the lack of resources should be a reason not to. I think that we can just modify curriculum as a foundation, have a standard, but then you modify it to each person because they have to learn. And in the United States, we have, of course, integrated classes, right? Inclusion. Usually, I know when I used to have students, I had to modify my teaching per that student. And so I ahead of time know what's going on with each of my students, and then I'm modifying that way. But you also have classes where the students may have assistive technology to help them. They may have a person with them to help in terms of getting the information. So they're never, usually we don't exclude people. I mean, we do have schools where some maybe it's integrated, but it's still separated in a sense because you can't impede other learning as well. But for the most part, everyone is included. It's just that we may have other people involved, support systems to help us because the teacher can't, do everything by him or herself either.
Absolutely. So if I'm hearing you correctly, Doctor, it's not so much about changing the curriculum. It's about the delivery of the curriculum. Things like, adjusting the lighting in the room, potentially, which I'm assuming some of these things UJ has. Having a dark room where people, when they feel overstimulated, they can just go hide away into. That you have maybe bean bags that students can learn sitting comfortably on the bean bag.
Yeah, we at least maximize their participation as much as possible. And we may not be able to do everything, but they have their right to learn just like everyone else. We just have to cater to what their needs are. And it's not them that needs fixing. It's us. It's the environment. And so we try to modify it according to their goals, because each has like their own individual goals. But we try to modify it to help them achieve their goals, but not necessarily say, well, since you can't learn, leave, or graduate out. Or we have the system too where, a certain age, if there are students with disabilities, they graduate or they leave, right? But we don't just send people, we shouldn't just say you have graduated just because you have circled or completed this checkbox. We still want to make sure that when they leave, that they have the support systems in place that they need to graduate.
Doctor, we're going to talk about the tech. There's a huge buzz around AI and artificial intelligence, and we do know that there is a use of assistive technology to help enhance and enhance the experience or the living the journey of neurodivergent persons. How is that technology being used in South Africa, and what's the potential?
In terms of how it's been used in South Africa, I think the professor will talk more about it. But I think in terms of the potential, it's great, especially for individuals with disabilities and neurodivergent. Using AI or AT, assistive technology, that gives people more freedom and that can increase inclusion and equity and opportunity to participate. So oftentimes you hear lately a lot of people talk about AI as if it's a bad thing, but it's not for people with disabilities. AI opens doors. AT, assistive technology, depending on the type, it opens doors. I use a wheelchair. Without my wheelchair, I wouldn't be here, right? I work remotely. Without my laptop or virtual, I could not work, right? This creates independence. This creates, socialization, relationships. So I think with assistive technology, artificial intelligence, that gives people voices. And I think if the more we utilize it or learn more about it, it could be I think the options can be endless for individuals with neurodivergent.
Yeah. While you're there, and I'm just curious, this is not part of the questions I was meant to ask, but I'm curious. We had a mom this week that talked about sign to communicate. There's a technology that's being used, and I'm curious to pick your brain as to whether you know about it. So sign to communicate for non-speaking autistics. Do you know anything about it?
I just know what I've read about it and seen about it, but I haven't had personal interaction with it. But I think that when people, if you use sign in any way, even with your AI, with your computer or whatever, that, like I said, that's giving people an opportunity to speak. Sometimes folks are disregarded just because they may not speak your language, my language, or the way you speak. But using technology opens that door, even for parents and families. Sometimes they, just because they're like stigma towards it, internalized stigma, they may also have that mindset. But if you have some type of equipment or technology to help them, it opens up doors that internally for the families, but also externally.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. And I think I'm going to have a follow-on question to Prof on this before we move into the other question in terms of this ethical considerations with some of these tools or technology. And if I'm thinking of sign to communicate in particular, one of the findings that we came across was this ethical consideration around the practitioners. Maybe can you touch on that a little bit before you move into the answer of the next question?
Okay. Anything that we do as human beings is always regulated and is supposed to be always guided by certain principles. And part of that is our ethical principles that have to guide the professionals into how, first of all, they comport themselves towards their clients, as well as what they do with the information that they get. Currently, AI has come into play, but there are still debates around the ethics of using AI. Let me simply say, in the classroom, for example, we find that our students now go and copy everything they tell, whatever chat bot, or write this essay for me. But then you're taking away that ability to learn when you do that. Absolutely. And as a lecturer, it is my fiduciary duty to correct that and say, even if it's easy for you to let the technology do this for you, it's actually taking something away from you.
Indeed.
In the therapy space, we are not strong in e-health. It is still in its infancy. However, again, it is the question of how, when we use it, do we cater for the ethical principles of using AI? An example, I may use a drone to send medication to Malamulele. The person who gets the medication, who will guide them? That's an ethical issue right there, because this person might use the medication wrongly because they have not read, they can't read it to begin with.
Yeah.
They just have this package that is being dropped there. That is AI and how we should carefully use it, although it's very effective, but we always have to have the best interest of our clients in the forefront.
Absolutely. Thank you for covering that so well. And that's a conversation that will continue as we see, the rapid advancement in the development of AI. So now let's look at technology in particular, assistive technology. What is UJ or Center for Neurodiversity here doing as far as collaborating with neurodivergent persons themselves to develop these solutions? And the reason I'm asking is just last year, I met a young 16-year-old, actually she was 18, preparing to go to university. We taught them robotics and coding. And I asked her, what do you want to become in future? And she said something like software engineer. And I said, why is that? And she started explaining, I want to develop solutions for people like me because she's neurodivergent. So how are you leveraging the fact that you have a Center for Neurodiversity as UJ to collaborate and develop solutions together with these people?
Yes. You would be aware that UJ is huge in the digital space.
Indeed.
And we have another center called the 𝐂𝐨𝐧𝐭𝐞𝐫𝐬𝐢𝐭𝐲, and we were training teachers, and one of our colleagues from there came and presented on augmentative reality. But I referred to some of the students who are, working closely with the center. One of them is writing a book. He has actually submitted a draft copy, the manuscript, to the UJ Press. But over and above that, after he heard how now these books are going to be digitalized so that they can be accessed even from the cell phone, you don't need to read a physical, we are catering already for the visually impaired there. But he's now in the space where he's, through the help of internal staff that work with us in the university, he has developed an app that he wants it to use it to communicate with people who are in the same condition as himself. So he sent me 2 models to look at. So we are going slowly by slowly. It's not big, it's small, but the impact is going to be big. Apart from that, we also link up with the Center for Neuroscience that is under Professor Elizabeth Henning, and we have colleagues from the UK who come to do brain imaging so that our people understand what is going on inside, all those highly scientific stuff, But the idea is so that when our educational psychologists now have been trained in that, they are able to say, for example, here is a child who has been using a cell phone the whole day. How does that affect their cognitive ability? How does that affect their social, emotional spaces whereby they need to be actually interacting so that they become a wholesome person? So we are not only using it to gatekeep, but we are also using technologies to
research. This is amazing.
And also encourage people to live in a healthy manner. Hence, health and well-being of people is important for us. We also partner with the University of Cape Town. The center, I think the 𝐂𝐟𝐫𝐢𝐜𝐚, the Center for Research in Autism, Center for
I know
Africa
they've got
Research.
Their own neurodiversity center.
Yes. So we partner with them, but we also have people who are doing robotics here. On the 28th of March, we intend to hold a neurodiversity career fair. And we will be inviting schools that produce drones, that produce whatever, so that even if it's not our learners per se, but those who are affiliated to the center can have the space to say, actually, I'm good at these flying things.
Yeah.
Let me be taught how to do that. And you will be invited.
You have to invite me, Prof, because you know why I'm smiling?
Yes.
I haven't explained. I don't know if you Kirsten got to explain how we came into the neurodiversity space. We have a project called Robotics with Neurodiverse, and it was supported by the SAB Foundation back in 2022.
Okay.
Where our objective was, one, to nurture the development of interpersonal skills amongst neurodivergent. And we came to this after experiencing it with a few learners. Secondly, to expose them to careers in STEM, to help them find their match, because we find, just like Richard Branson, Elon Musk, amongst others, even Bill Gates, that more often we find the neurodivergent mind is very analytical, very focused, and they tend to excel in STEM-related fields. So the fact that you are organizing a career fair to that end, I would love to be part of it.
Thank you.
Because it speaks to the work that we do already.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So my next question, Prof, was, how are you guys, I think you've kind of touched on it with your work with UCT, how are you now using some of these learnings and practices and initiatives and sharing them with the rest of the country through other universities?
That is why I earlier spoke about the association. That is why I also spoke about the journal. By the way, we only finalized the last touches of it. So once it's up and running, we will disseminate it so that at least what we do gets to be known, not only around the country, but in Africa and across the world. That's how we are doing it. But over and above that, we hold seminars, webinars. We go across the world to talk to people about what we are doing. Only tonight I'll be talking in Colombia. I will be training. These are the university officials who are in charge of the health and well-being of university students. And we will be looking at sharing our own experiences in terms of how we promote that. But I think most importantly, we also partner with associations that are started by students and former students so that our work gets known. But also with individuals. Madam here, who came with you, was saying to me, why I don't understand why I'm here. I'm here only to. I said, no, you are the most important person.
Yeah, where is she? She's hiding.
She was taking a video. That video is going to go a long way.
Yeah.
This is how we kind of establish collaborations, disseminate information. But we would like to be much more heard in the education spaces by both the DBE and the DHET. Because if our voice is not properly heard, adequately heard there, then we are talking to ourselves.
Absolutely, and that collaboration becomes difficult amongst that knowledge sharing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, so that's what we need. We need DBE, DHET to come to the party and share. So that's something we need to organize. Make sure that it happens.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you.
And I've got so many questions for you, but I'm going to have to stick to the script when you talked about the research on how the cell phones is affecting students. But I'll talk to you on the next episode about that because you're doing a research, but you're also implementing some of the outcomes of that research to bring solutions to the fore. Okay, so we're going to look at transition, Doctor, from university to the work environment. And here we want to see what matters the most as the students are graduating. Is it their qualifications? Is it special life skills that becomes critical and useful for this position in their life?
I think skills are important, but I think employment is important in preparing for it. And people can work in different capacities. It doesn't necessarily mean it has to be a 9-to-5 job, right? But I think employment is key because it creates stems and relationships in other ways, like self-confidence, self-esteem. And one of the things that we're trying is to develop an inclusive employment program with the Department of Educational Psychology and Neurodiversity.
At the university.
Yes, here.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I've been, tasked to do or try to do is to develop this IEP or inclusive employment program where we are training these teachers to learn how to create their own employment program in the schools. So then that way we can reach more of the individuals in rural areas, and they can tweak it according to their community, right? They can customize it. And then also, along with training the teachers, so we'll have hopefully a module on that. We want to make sure that we work with employers. So oftentimes we may graduate from school, but teachers aren't necessarily talking to employers. I mean, when do they have time?
Absolutely.
Right? But we want to try to embed within the program where that will happen, and also have a whole module for employers, because the gap is between the communication between the school system and then employers. And things can happen before they graduate. Have employers come in and talk to the students about what's expected. We can learn about different jobs, and if we can take different skills from those jobs and job carve, if the individual can do certain parts of the job as opposed to doing the whole job. And then we can also educate the employers, because I do know this, even though I'm not from South Africa, the government does have quotas in terms of expectations in hiring.
Absolutely.
And this can help employers, and they can develop their own program within their own business once they take our little courses and stuff. But it takes communication and engagement. I think that's where the key, that's where we're missing.
Is there anything you guys haven't thought of at the Center for Neurodiversity? You're looking at fathers, you're looking at teachers, you're looking at villages. Literally, the vision is huge, but also the fact that there's not, I don't sense that there's a big gap between the vision and the actual implementation, because you're doing these things already. So it sounds to me there's no area that you haven't touched.
Well, we are called a national hub. We were established through the funding of the DHET and the European Union to become a national hub, meaning what we do is to address the needs of the nation. And you can imagine how enormous that task is, because we have to leave literally no stone unturned. Otherwise, we will be trying to include while we are excluding at the same time. We don't want to be found wanting in that perspective. And the most important thing is what she's talking about, what we are doing to link with the world of work, but also to create awareness from the employer's perspective.
Interesting. Yeah, there's a few things I want to ask about the employers, because we had an expert from in Cape Town last week that was talking about what they're doing to prepare employers, because sometimes it could be just ticking the box exercise, and that feeds into the next question that I'll ask. How corporates can make sure that this is not a tick the box exercise. In fact, we had a masterclass with Siemens yesterday. Siemens have a global empowerment program for African Girls Can Code initiative, which 𝐂𝐻𝐿 here is part of, as well as me, where we were talking about neurodiversity as an asset, as a competitive advantage. And we're looking at the scientific research by the likes of JP Morgan's, Deloitte, that found that teams that are cognitively diverse have, a much higher chance of innovating than those that are not, right? They are 48% faster in executing than those that are not. Right. Their productivity is 35% higher than teams that are not. Right. So how do we, what are you doing to show companies as UJ or Center of Neurodiversity that, look, this can be a missed opportunity if you don't give this graduates opportunity?
I think that is exactly what you just said.
Mm.
We have to highlight that and change the narrative as opposed to people looking at disability as a deficit. It's not. It's a strength, and it can help with your bottom line, with revenue. And when you do have diverse workers, it does help with your bottom line, according to, like you just said, in research says.
Absolutely.
And so I think the main thing is that employers have to be engaged and aware of it. Sometimes they just don't know. But the more engaged you are, like we have to be aggressive with engaging with employers and show them that it's not about that person's disability at all. It's about their talent and their skill. And so if we highlight that and we don't go in with this hire them because they have a disability, that's the problem there.
Yeah, it's a problem. And Doctor, I like that you're mentioning this. I was giving a speech at Autism Western Cape 2 weeks ago, and we had artists, right? These young people creating art that are autistic. And part of the message that I was giving to the audience and the parents is to say, we need to stop looking at these products that autistic people are creating as what do you call it? Charity. You know, I'm going to buy their art because it's charity. No, they are creating beautiful pieces that are worth. In fact, I posted on LinkedIn about it to say, if you're a corporate, go buy their art, not out of charity, but it's a value exchange that you're getting. And it speaks to what you're saying. You're getting something from these people. It's not a charitable work.
Yeah, you're giving their talents and their work. Just like anybody else. The fact that they have a disability, that's just another uniqueness of them. But they can work. You can job carve. It can still help your bottom line. It can help with your co-worker relationships. It can help with your productivity, like you said. But I just think people, when you're not in their faces, people put you to the side. And I think folks with disabilities, and it's global, it's not just in South Africa, it's in the United States too. They are an afterthought. And so like that's why I'm here to say, hey, we're not an afterthought. I'm not here or in the United States. And so I think a lot of things that they are doing or UJ is doing is trying to be aggressive and saying, hey, we are here and we want these employers to see us.
Yeah. And okay, yes, yeah. While you think of that, while you are adding the answer, Prof, I want to ask you this, that it's important, the work that you guys are doing at UJ, the data that you gather within the African context, that you can take this data to corporates and say, look, you know, this is Miriam. Miriam is autistic, but look at how the contribution that Miriam is making at Microsoft. So that corporates or leaders can see real data of what you're claiming.
No, thank you so much. I think I just wanted to add to what Doctor has said, in that you asked a question, what kind of program are we developing? One of the postdoctoral fellows I referred to, a while back, we launched a book on career coaching for people with disabilities, especially the neurodivergent people. And in that, from that publication, we are developing a program to help employers to be able to understand, when I have this type of person, what am I losing if I don't optimize the skills they have? How best can I support them to support me to reach the stars, the stars with my company? And that's in development, and for the future, I think we'll be able to disseminate it. And we are also at the level of collecting more data, as you said, to find out how best can we beef up this so that our employers are also supported, because many of them don't understand, why is this person always late? And we don't realize what is behind that lateness. It's only when you have the awareness that you are able to address that person.
I'm so happy to be a South African, and I'm so happy to be sitting with you and hearing this. And I'm also happy for the parents at home, because, you know, celebrating neurodiversity, Prof, we have some of the parents worried. You know, I'm worried the world that my child will find when they finish school. If I'm not here tomorrow, will the world be kind to my child? Will my child get a job? And I think it must be comforting at home to hear Prof saying they are preparing the landscape using data and science to help, not only to help your child in future, but to support employers as well, so they don't feel alone.
Exactly.
I myself have employed neurodivergent people. We had one now who has ADHD, and his transition is a mechatronics engineer. His transition now to be in the helicopter, what do you call it, aeroplane manufacturing space.
Wow, beautiful.
It shows there's
Beautiful.
talent, right? But there's also challenges that are being faced that, as you say, you will be helping employers understand how do we leverage and support this talent.
Yes.
That's so amazing. I'm literally dancing on the inside. Prof, it's so beautiful that the work that you're doing as a national center that's meant to support the whole of South Africa. It means that it doesn't matter where people are, and there will always be support. You will always find a way to reach them. If we're looking at stigma, it's such a big thing, and I think Dr. mentioned as well, it's such a big thing that still continues both in the work environment, within our communities, that eats away at the potential, and maybe even how neurodivergent people can, live their full self, meet their full potential. What is the university doing in trying to destigmatize neurodiversity?
We're talking a lot about it.
Yeah.
And we are training a lot. I spoke about the UJFM.
Yeah.
That's the space where we invite parents, we invite lecturers, we invite young people, we invite everybody. Now, we have a project with the fathers. It is cycling for neurodiversity. Cycling, as in
cycling.
Yes.
I love cycling. I'll join them.
Yes. And we use a new concept called neuro-inclusion. We cannot do away with stigma if people are not included, if they are not here with us and we don't understand them. We will only be talking about them, not with them. But if they are here, we converse. They tell us how they feel, how they experience. You spoke about someone who needs a space. We will be showing you our sensory room after the what you call. It's so important that people feel accepted. And that is the space that we are trying to create here. We don't want anyone to feel like they are out there. But also, through publications, we need to debunk some of the myths around stigmatization and all of that in concrete ways. We will be submitting a book on career transitioning of youth with neurodiversity with another colleague from the USA. What we did, we took what we called a book dreaming trip. We left here, Soweto, went to Gaborone, Botswana, came back to Pretoria, went into Lesotho, went into Eastern Cape, went down to Cape Town, and the book was conceptualized there. It deals, some of the authors are parents of children with neurodiversity. This is a way through which we'll destigmatize.
Absolutely.
And some of the writers the authors in the book are two principals of two very important schools that focus on autism and others on learning disabilities. They have their say there. This is how we begin to destigmatize and tell people that we need to listen to one another. We need to listen and pay attention to the needs of the neurodiverse community, so that ultimately it's not a guesswork. It's based on people sharing their experiences, and then we disseminate that.
That's so powerful. Conversations, engaging everyday people.
Yes.
That's really good. So some people still feel isolated, Prof, in their communities. And I know you talked about the cycling club, the fathers. What other kind of community-based models are you guys endorsing or working with to ensure that we reduce isolation that people feel within their communities?
The group of fathers with children with neurodiversity has now trained, I can count even more than 5 other groups of men. They have now started WhatsApp groups where every day, every minute of the day, there is conversation going on. And that way, we feel we are reaching even families. We have also yearly, I think, depending on the availability of resources. Next year, we will be doing what we did initially. We call it the 𝐂𝐨𝐧𝐭𝐞𝐫𝐬𝐢𝐭 Island Retreat. I'm not sure if you're aware 𝐂𝐨 has its own island.
I didn't know
Yes,
𝐂𝐨
it
has
does,
its own.
madam.
Where? Somewhere in Mauritius?
No, right here in South
Okay.
Africa.
Wow. Let's hear about. Well, we can hear about it next time.
So what we do, we take the fathers to a retreat to go and self-heal, and also plan and share, strategies of how best to support families. And we have a cohort of men who are missing in action. We want these fathers to be advocates to bring those others back, so that we rebuild families, we unite families, and that way at least we are in the space where we can say, as you said earlier, beyond policy, this is what we are doing.
Absolutely. And stronger families make for stronger communities.
Exactly.
And how do I wouldn't be doing some of our audience justice if I don't ask, how do other fathers, I'm just thinking in Cape Town, we have quite a few fathers that attend our Celebrating Neurodiversity initiative. How do they get involved in the work that you do?
Okay, equally the fathers of children with neurodiversity,
those in particular,
is countrywide.
Oh, it's countrywide.
Yes,
okay.
We have participants in Cape Town, actually. Okay. A few of them, in East London, all across the country. They only need to know how to join, and that is, and we would love to actually have representatives from all provinces, so that when we have our 𝐂𝐨 Island retreat, then they can come and be in the same space with us to help us to disseminate the word out there, because although the world is focusing so much on young women and mothers, and you can't leave aside the male child and the father, because they are part and parcel of humanity.
Absolutely.
If we do that, it goes back to what you were saying earlier. There's few men in the educational psychology space who is there to mentor the male child.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, we would love to have those fathers on the podcast to hear their perspective, because I think the more they spread the word about the work that they do, the more they contribute to destigmatization, but also to the presence of parents in this journey, of fathers in this journey with the mothers.
They will be coming down to Cape Town, as I said.
Yes,
that's
where I would love to meet them there.
Yeah, we can take the opportunity and use our presence there, and just get in touch with me around the 9, 10, 11th of January. Of January. We will be in Cape Town. Yes, we will be in Cape Town, so we can do that for you.
Prof, we are coming to an end. This conversation has been both insightful but also very necessary as a national conversation. As you can hear, the Center for Neurodiversity has a national mandate. I would like to hear from you, Prof. Looking at the next 5 years, what excites you about research into neurodiversity within the context of South Africa and even Africa for that matter?
Not only what excites me, but what gives me hope is that with the Mpedi Family Scholarship, we would have done a lot of homegrown research. And with the Africa by Bus initiatives that I'm talking about, we would have made inroads into Africa. Part of our general board of editors are people scattered all across Africa, because we would want, after 5 years from now, to talk about Africa that is neurodiversity wise.
We would likely be the leads globally. right? with the work that you're doing, it's very comprehensive. It includes everybody. This,
yes,
as I've mentioned, there's no sector of society that I don't feel like the Center of Neurodiversity is leaving behind.
Yes,
so that should position us 5 years from now to be the lead in neurodiversity, as you say.
We want to be.
Yeah.
Yes.
What about you, Doctor? What gives you hope about the future?
I think for the future and all, I think being in South Africa and your history, especially in Soweto, this is justice, and I think disability and justice are hand in hand. And I actually do see UJ being like the not just the national, like one of the global leaders, and especially when it comes to neurodivergent, but also when you're being included in employment and in involving employers.
Absolutely.
Because a lot of times, even in the States, we put that to the side. And so I do believe that UJ will be like an international leader and a model to follow. Because you guys are doing a lot of things here. I'm like,
absolutely. I mean, if you're looking, Prof has been traveling around the world, engaging with academics and leaders to share the best practices that you guys are applying here. It's only a matter of time before that becomes, a ripple effect globally. This is the last question. Prof, at this point, look at the audience at home, and this might be a parent or a child, a learner themselves, listening to this conversation. What do you want them to take away from this conversation? What do you want them to hear?
I would like to really say to them that if you are a neurodivergent child, if you are a sibling of someone who is neurodivergent, if you are parents or a parent or a caregiver of someone who is neurodivergent, identify their strengths, identify their abilities, and help them to grow that. Because we don't want to be caught in the question, what will happen when I am no more to my child? But we want to say, have I done sufficiently to leave my child prepared to be employable so that they can eke a living for themselves?
Absolutely. Anything from you, Doctor? Just closing remarks?
I just want you guys to know, or you all to know, that having a disability is not the end of the world. Stigma towards disability is greater than the disability itself or the condition that you may or may not have. But understand that there are options for you, there are opportunities for you. We're all, as a community, working together, we can create that. So please make sure that you don't isolate, that you engage, you reach out, and just ask questions and take advantage of the resources that are available to you. And if you don't see something that's available, create it and make it.
Absolutely.
Thank
you. Yeah, thank you very much, Prof Sefotho and Dr. Shonda, right? Shonda, yeah. Thank you so much to you, Prof. Your work for sharing your journey and your story, and the work that you do. It actually reminds us that it's about people. People are at the core of what you guys are doing, and it's not just about systems and the theory and the research. There's people at the center of what you guys do. So we're very grateful to Prof and Doctor for sharing their insights and their knowledge with us. And for you at home, please remember your voice matters, and continue to empower yourself with knowledge, because when you have knowledge, really the sky is the limit. So from me, Emma Mphahlele at Beyond the Box, this is goodbye. Please remember to like, to share, and follow. Goodbye.